Hey guys, it's Kevin again. Here's my review for the most necessary Star Wars film we have gotten yet. That, of course, being Solo, a Star Wars story. And basically what this film is it's exactly what it sounds like. It's basically Han Solo before he was known as the badass that he really was, how he got the Millennium Falcon, how he met up with Chewbacca, Lando, all that various stuff, and basically his adventures long before he meets Luke and Leia many years later. So, Solo, a Star Wars story, I was very conflicted when it came to this movie. Now, look, I am a Star Wars fan, obviously. I mean, you guys can see, I definitely am a huge Star Wars fan. I actually, I've loved both of the new Star Wars films we've gotten. I know Last Jedi is highly controversial and is a film that, really gets very loud reactions out of people, to say the least, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was something really different and risky, and I think it really did pay off in the end. This film, on the other hand, and the prequels in general, I've never really been too keen on. I've never really seen the need to get these prequels of these characters that have already had the book closed on them. I mean, Han died in The Force Awakens, so yeah, it is very weird to be getting a Han Solo movie now, and it definitely didn't help with all the production that this film, the production hell that this film really did go through, which I'm not going to get into. You guys know all about it. It honestly is pretty terrible what this film really did go through, and it really did make me very worried as to how this would turn out. And I will say this, Solo, a Star Wars story is a fun film, but is it necessary? Hell no. This is easily the most fluffy and I think just safe Star Wars film we've gotten in a very long time. It doesn't really do anything that different, but it is fun overall, and we're just getting into it, starting off with the cast. And of course, going in this movie, that's the thing that a lot of people were very much worried about. I, on the other hand, really wasn't. I never really had too many concerns when it came to the caster. These are all actors that I very much do respect, and especially when it comes to Alden Ehrenreich, I never really had too many concerns with him because I saw him in Hail Caesar, I knew what he could do there, and I've been waiting for him to get another really great role since then, and he's really good here. I think he did a really good job as Han Solo. Now, does he really do anything that different? No, he pretty much does embody what Harrison Ford did do. There are points where it does feel like he's trying to mimic him, but he does have the part down pretty well. He's got the sort of smarmy, very sort of, very sort of selfish side of Han Solo down. He knows how great he is. He's very selfish in that way, and I think he has that down very well, but he also has the badass side of him down well, and I think he definitely did a really good job here. He's definitely a lot of fun to watch, and I'm not gonna lie, even though I wasn't really, for the idea of us getting a Han Solo movie, if for some reason we were to get more with him as Han Solo, I honestly wouldn't mind, because I actually think he did a really good job as his character. He was pretty great here. And then Woody Harrelson as Tobias Beckett, I was definitely looking forward to. He has just been knocking out of the park lately, and he's good in this film. I think he overall did a really good job. I'll say this, a lot of people have said this, and I very much agree. I think really anyone could have played this role. He doesn't really bring anything that different to it, but he does do a really good job here, and I definitely was impressed by him overall. Someone I really do want to point out, though, is Emilia Clarke as Qi'ra. I was not expecting much from her. She wasn't in the trailers a lot. We didn't really know what role she was going to play, and to me, this is easily her best movie role yet. I think for a while she's really been struggling, as have many of the Game of Thrones actors, and I think this is a really good role for her as Qi'ra. Actually, Han and Qi'ra's relationship was one of my favorite parts of this movie. There's something really sweet about it, and I overall really did enjoy it. Where Qi'ra ended up going, I really wasn't expecting, and they take some directions with her that, like I said, I thought honestly was kind of surprising, and I did think she overall did a really good job here. I really enjoyed her in this role, and she was definitely one of my favorite parts of this movie for sure. But easily the standout of this movie is actually not Alden Ehrenreich, but Donald Glover as Lando. I mean, I think for most people, this is one of the things that we're most looking forward to. Donald Glover is one of the best actors working today, and everything he touches is just gold. And no surprise here, he's fantastic as Lando. I mean, there were points where, I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't see Donald Glover. I saw Billy D. Williams. You could see how much he was embodying that character. However, unlike Ehrenreich, it never feels like he's just trying to be what Billy D. Williams was. He actually does put a really nice spin on the character, and I thought he got it down very well. Him and Han's banter is easily one of the highlights of this film, and I just really loved everything he did here. The movie already was really fun, but he just brought it up another level, and I think he did an incredible job here. Donald Glover is such a great actor, and this film very much shows that he can pretty much touch anything and just makes it 10 times better than it already could have been. And then the rest of the cast I thought was pretty good. Thandie Newton, she's good in this movie. Not really a lot to do, but she's good here. Joonas Suotamo, I gotta say, I thought was great as Chewbacca. I mean, obviously we expect him to be, but obviously, since he's a lot younger, he's able to, do some more stuff physically with the Chewbacca character, and I thought he did a really good job overall. Paul Bettany, he's good for what he has here, but he really doesn't have that much to do. He's honestly kind of wasting this film. He's a very disposable, sort of villainous character. I wouldn't necessarily call him like the main antagonist in this movie, but he is definitely a villainous type character, and he really didn't do much of anything for me. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I thought was good in the movie, but we'll get to her character a little bit later because I really wasn't a huge fan of her. But I will say, I thought the cast here overall did a really good job. I thought they did work well together, and that's something that I will definitely give this film. Now let's get to the directing and the writing. Now, here's the thing. When we're talking about the directing, because of how much production hell this film did go through, I can't really talk about Ron Howard because, to be honest with you, nothing about this movie felt like a Ron Howard movie. I know obviously he has final director credit, but it really seemed like the tone wasn't really influenced from Howard. It seemed like basically they retained the exact same tone that Phil Lord and Chris Miller were trying to go for, and I don't know if that's the case, but nothing about this felt like a Ron Howard movie. He directs primarily much more serious, sort of Oscar baity type films, and that's not at all what this felt like. This was a very fun, it's trying to be a fun adventure, and it does a good job with that. It is a fun movie overall. I definitely did get a sense of, you definitely did get a sense of tension. There's some really good tension throughout the scenes. And it's also a lot of fun. Like I said, I thought there were some fun moments throughout. I definitely did enjoy it, and I think the directing, again, Ron Howard didn't really seem like he did much of anything. It seems like he just maintained the same tone that Phil Lord and Chris Miller were going for, and I do have to give it to him for that, because for any director, when something like that happens and there's just a last-minute change, it can be tough for anyone, but I'm glad that Ron Howard didn't really do anything. That being said, compared to, especially as of late, how each Star Wars film has really felt like the director's vision, nothing about this feels like Ron Howard's vision. Like Last Jedi, say what you want, that felt like Rian Johnson's movie. Force Awakens felt like J.J. Abrams' movie. This does not feel like Ron Howard's movie. It feels very much just like a fun movie that Phil Lord and Chris Miller were going for, and he just kind of kept the same tone. I don't know if that's, like I said, I don't know if that's actually what happened, but it very much seemed that way. The writing in this film, I will give the movie this. The writing is pretty weak, especially when it comes to the characters. Now, not every character is weak here, but the writing there definitely is some problems with. The story in general isn't really anything that big. Like, it's basically just, here's how this happened, here's how this happened, this is how he met Chewie, this is how he met Lando. It isn't really that interesting of a story. At first, it's like a rescue mission, and then it becomes something that's really not all that interesting. However, the story isn't really, I think, the biggest problem. The characters here, to me, did feel a little bit flat. I did really feel like they were missing a lot of depth. A lot of people have said this, and again, I'm going to agree. Han Solo just isn't a very complex character, and they really don't give him that much of an arc here. He kind of starts off the same way that he ends the movie. He is just as sort of like, he's just as sort of just confident and very badass as he was, as I think he was at the end of the movie. He just didn't really go through much of an arc here, so it didn't really feel necessary in that way. It didn't really feel like we needed a Han Solo movie. They didn't really do much of anything for him as a character. Again, Ehrenreich is very fun, but it never really felt like Solo was like the star of this movie. And in fact, at points, he does kind of fade into the background a bit. It never really felt like he was front and center with everything. And that was a bit disappointing. I really thought they could have given him a more interesting arc. Even if he wasn't an interesting character, they could have added just a few layers to him. And they really didn't. It's just not like I'm going to turn on the first Star Wars movie and anything's going to be different. It's basically going to be just the same. There's really nothing here that changes anything, and I don't really think that it really worked. The other characters, I will say some of them were very well developed. Kira, I actually did think was a very interesting character. Where they end up going with her, again, I was very surprised by, and I thought her and Han's relationship was actually one of the best parts of this movie, because again, it's something we didn't really see before. We didn't really get to see Han interact with any other woman besides Leia in the original trilogy. So seeing that, yes, it was something different, and they did do a good job with it overall. I actually did enjoy their relationship in this film. However, aside from Emilia Clarke, I didn't really think the rest of the characters, besides ones that already are established, like Lando and Han and Chewie, didn't really have much to do here. Particularly Woody Harrelson, I thought was very flat as a character. He doesn't really have much to do. He has a very sort of reactionary type role where he's just in the background a lot, and what was disappointing about this is that there's a huge thing that happens in the first, I'd say, 30 minutes of this movie, and it's a pretty big thing for Harrelson's character. I'm not going to get into it, but it's a pretty big thing involving his character, and it's never brought up again. It's like it didn't matter, but the thing is, the first act treated it as if it was something that did matter, and I wish they would have focused more on it because it could have given him an arc, and in the end, he just didn't really have much of an arc here. A lot of people say he's supposed to be Han's mentor, and I really didn't see that. I saw it as Han was very much calling most of the shots throughout the movie. If anything, I thought Chewie was more Han's mentor in that sense. I thought they had that dynamic down perfectly, but in terms of Woody Harrelson, I really did not feel that way when it came to Beckett as a character. He just kind of felt like he was just going along with, the mission and things like that, and he was just there for the same reason. He had his own reasons for being there, and it just didn't really feel like he had much of an arc in this film. They just didn't really do a lot with him. The other characters, like I said, Paul Bettany, I thought he was very much wasted. Like I said, he's kind of in this villainous role, and it doesn't really work. It kind of comes out of left field, and it seemed like they just did it because they really needed a villain, and it just really didn't work overall. Like I said, in terms of Han and Chewie, though, they got that down perfectly. The way they meet, the way they meet all the way towards the end of the movie, when Han does have the Millennium Falcon, they had that on point perfectly. I thought their relationship was very well fleshed out. I really did enjoy it. You can see how Chewie is so loyal towards Han, and I thought they definitely did that very well. That was definitely one of the best parts of this movie for sure. I really loved their dynamic, and I thought it was really great. There are some really fun scenes in this movie, but like I said, there just really isn't anything that's significant in terms of story. Cinematography, on the other hand, is great. I thought the cinematography here was really great. Again, they were able to maintain the same sort of cinematography in all the other Star Wars films. Nothing really that different, but I actually really did like where they went with the cinematography. I thought it looked really great here. A lot of great scenes on, just the different planets and the different worlds they explore. They all look beautiful, and they all look very well. There's a lot of detail, and they look very fleshed out, and I really did enjoy the effects and things like that. I thought they were very well done. In terms of cinematography, though, there is one character that I really didn't like in this movie, and that is L3. A lot of people are talking about L3 and how she was one of the standouts here, and look, as good as Phoebe Waller-Bridge was, I really was not a fan of this character. To me, it seems like they were just trying to cater to a sort of SJW type audience. And when people say that Star Wars has an agenda, I always say no, they don't. They're trying to tell their own story. This very much felt like they were. Thankfully, that gets shut down real quick. At first, that's all she does in this movie. She just complain about, equal rights and things like that. Things that just do not belong in this movie. It's not so much that I don't think that stuff is important, because it absolutely is. It just doesn't have a place in this movie. Thankfully, she does become better, but at first, I really was not a fan of L3, and I really, at the end of the day, I didn't really see the point of her in this movie. I think, a lot of her stuff they easily could have cut out, and it really wouldn't have done much of anything in terms of her character. So yeah, I thought that was very strange. Also, in terms of humor, I did actually think the humor was very on point in this movie. Like I said, just any point in the film where, like, Lando and Han were constantly trying to, like, one-up each other, I thought was a lot of fun. That's some of the best stuff in the movie. There's some great banter between Han and Chewie. Just that stuff is gold. I really love that, and there's a lot of really good humor throughout this. At first, it didn't work for me, but once Lando came in, I really was laughing a lot, and more than I definitely expected to. So again, the humor delivered much more than I was expecting as well. The score here I did actually really like. I thought they did a really good job with the score. I thought definitely it added to the tension and the suspense that's going on. That's the other thing, though. Because of the fact that we know, like, Lando and Han and Chewie are gonna live, there's not a lot of tension throughout this film. There's not really a moment where you're really on the edge of your seat. There are some really good action sequences, like the train sequence. It's fantastic. I really love that train sequence and things like that. But again, you never really feel that sense of tension, because you know in the end everything's going to be okay. You know Han's going to get out of this. You know Chewie's going to get out of this. You know Lando is going to get out of this. The other characters, again, you do care about them, but there's a lot of points in this movie where they put Han and Chewie's future at, life at risk, and they're going to be fine, so there's not really a lot of tension there. And then the editing, like I said, the first, 20 to 30 minutes of this movie did not really work. I thought that it definitely was very slow. It took a while to get into it, but once a certain thing happened, especially once they met up with Lando, from there, I pretty much really enjoyed the movie. In the end, like I said, guys, this is a fun Star Wars movie. It's very fluffy, it's very disposable, but it's fun in the moment. It's definitely something that I could see myself watching again. Did we need it? Absolutely not. There are, like I said, some fun scenes. There's some fun stuff they do with Solo, but fun scenes and some good characters and some good action sequences overall, for me at least, does not constitute a full movie about Han Solo. We really could have gone without this, and I don't really think anything would have really changed. If you're looking for depth in Han Solo, Force Awakens, I think, definitely will suit you better in terms of that. Like I said, it's a fun movie. It's nothing really that great, but it's not nearly as mediocre as I expected it to be. I think the acting was good. I thought that there was some really good chemistry between the actors. Ehrenreich did what he needed to do. Glover was fantastic. I thought, Emilia Clarke was very strong. So there definitely is a lot to enjoy about this movie. It's just, at the end of the day, it doesn't really feel that necessary, and because of that, I am going to give Solo: A Star Wars Story overall a B-. But overall, guys, I'm going to review Solo: A Star Wars Story. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall. Left your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.